Hi, my name is Kim Lockhart, and I am an 8th grade science teacher at Georgia Cyber Academy. I am one of the nominees for the Teacher of the Year, so I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. The reason why I chose to become a blended teacher is because honestly, I had a friend who worked for Georgia Cyber Academy, and she thought that I would be a good fit. And I was looking for an back into teaching. I had stayed home for several years with my children, and so I thought, well, this would be a nice fit, a nice easy jump. And it was a jump. It did take some adjustment. It's definitely not like brick and mortar, but I love it. And so I think I guess the big question is why I choose to stay a virtual teacher every year and not go back into brick and mortar. And it's really because of the relationships that I form with my families. I teach families that are typically unengaged and left public school or brick and mortar school for a variety of reasons. And I have such a unique opportunity to kind of help these families in a virtual setting and to be successful maybe when they wouldn't have in brick and mortar. So I feel like I get to make a little bit of a difference with some of the students that aren't served by the brick and mortar school. So that's why I choose to stay every year. Teaching in a blended we're all virtual. So teaching in a virtual school has totally increased my teaching skills and the way that I teach. It has made me a better educator in general. I do not have a captive audience like I did in brick and mortar. I can't force students to come to class every day. I can't force them to stay at the computer once they log in, or to not play their video games, or to not play their cell phones. And I have learned, every day I try to get better at not being a performance or a circus, but just finding ways to keep them engaged, find them ways to keep them wanting to come back, to allow them to show me what they know, to make class something that is not a chore, and something that they choose to come to every day, because for them it is a choice. And I feel like by differentiating the way that I get to differentiate, by bringing in the different activities that I can as a virtual teacher, and by doing all, mixing things up, not teaching in the same way, in almost a robotic way like I could in brick and mortar, because I had these kids for my 45 minutes every day. So I feel like it has definitely stretched me to become a better teacher. But then on the other hand, there have been challenges that I've faced. I don't have these kids, in a desk in front of me every day. So I have had to learn how to get past my comfort zone and to get on the webcam and to do demonstrations with them, and to make it interactive, something that they want to come to. And that's something that I'd like to do in science, is I get to teach science. So back in brick and mortar, I could do hands-on activities with them whenever I wanted. And I have had to be very creative in this environment to get on the webcam and to send them a K-mail, which is our form of email, to send them a K-mail and say, hey, make sure you have some Legos, or make sure you have some vinegar and salt and baking soda, or to kind of lay some breadcrumbs for them to want to come to class, and to kind of not spoil everything about what we're doing, but to make it exciting for them to want to come to class. So it's been a challenge to get past that notion of the kids are stuck with me every day, and it's something that I really have to work hard to do. And like I said, those are technologies I use. I use webcam. I use different small group activities in breakout rooms. We use the whiteboard. They're able to use all different types of tools. They can talk to each other. I use different YouTube clips. I make YouTube videos of myself for them. We do a lot of demonstrations. And so there's a webcam, document camera. There's all different technologies that I have that I'm able to bring into my virtual classroom. And probably my favorite part about teaching in a virtual classroom is the relationships that I have with parents and students, and they're very different than I had in brick and mortar. I talk to my parents so much more frequently than I did to my families in brick and mortar, because typically I only contacted them when their child wasn't doing well. But I'm constantly in contact with my parents and families as to not only how their student is doing, but how can I support them in their virtual environment. And I'm their point of communication for my homeroom parent. So we're communicating about all different things, and whether it's something they need for school or whether it's something that's happening in their family that I need to know about. So that is probably my favorite part about teaching virtually. And that in turn allows us to tailor the educational environment for these students, because we are able to ability group in my school. And so I actually have the co-taught class. So we group our kids by ability and based on the areas that they do really well in, and then the areas that they struggle in. And we know this because we are in constant communication with them and their parents. So we know where they do well and what their needs are. And that's because we're in a virtual environment. We have to communicate, or else or else we'll lose the families. And another thing that we do, because everything is online and virtual and on the computer, we are able to gather data so much easier, in my opinion, than back in brick and mortar. We do different assessments with them. I use a lot of Google Docs, Google surveys, where I can see different data. We use quick little summative assessments in class. We have polling tools. I can save the chat room about the questions that they've answered, so I know what they've done. We can save their work on the whiteboard slide. We can play a Kahoot game online, and that will give me a chart of their data. So I'm constantly looking at data as to what child needs extra help, or what child can use some enrichment to help push their knowledge that they already have. So every day I'm looking at data that I'm able to actually kind of easily gather because I teach online. And the evidence of student achievements that I have, that I am an outstanding teacher, which I really don't believe that I have, is really comes from my families. Like I said, I teach typically the lower student that is typically unengaged due to a variety of reasons. And when I get that email from the parent or from the student saying, Miss Lockhart, it was a great class, or just the phone call saying, thank you, asking for help, just them reaching out is a big step for them to reach out to a teacher to help. Another way that I feel a sense of achievement is students who typically do not come to class. When I can get them coming to class on a regular basis, that is a huge achievement for me, and that happens because I've got to fight to keep my kids in school and to keep them engaged. And I feel like when I get that one starfish, when I save that one kid that would not have made it in a brick and mortar school, I feel like that is my success for me. Tons of awards I probably haven't won, like many online teachers. Every year I have won the most fun teacher award, and that's voted by the students. It's something that administration sends out to my family, and it's I guess it's a good thing they think my class is fun. We are real. We are honest with each other in there. We are encouraging, and we do a lot of different activities. So I guess that's one accolade that I've won, and it's actually really special to me because it's chosen by the students and the families and not by my colleagues, which I love. I love my colleagues, and we plan together all the time, but I like that it's from the students. And another question is my greatest contribution to blended and online learning. I've not come with new and unique techniques. I collaborate with my teachers all the time, and we do use engaging strategies, but nothing that is something that I came up with like all on my own. But the contribution that I have to online learning is really in my families. And when I see that they have been successful, that's how I feel like I've contributed. And then the final question is my concerns regarding online learning. And I feel like this is the way education is going. I totally believe that in the future, there'll be more and more online learning opportunities for students. I know that I did my gifted endorsement online, and my county has an online high school and middle school. So I feel like this is totally the trend of education. But I feel like the challenge of this is to make students realize that it's a for real school, that it's something that they need to do, just like they would brick and mortar. They need to be engaged. They need to participate. I feel like in a virtual school needs to make sure that the accountability is there, just like it would be in a brick and mortar. That if a student doesn't log in or doesn't attend class, that it's just like a brick and mortar school. And there are definitely reasons for some students not to attend, health reasons or different things like that. But there needs to be the accountability that's in a brick and mortar school. And so that's one thing that I kind of concern I have about online learning. But I'm excited about the way that online learning is, how big it's getting. And I believe that it serves such a huge portion of the population. And it's going to serve even more students as it becomes more and more seasoned, as online learning becomes more seasoned. And I'm excited to see the changes and the new improvements that will come in order to meet all of our students. So that's a little bit about me. I know I went over my 5 to 7 minutes, but I tried to get it all in.